Good day, everybody. This is IR Sage, Mr. IR Sage. This is really just a lighting experiment. I had been doing a sound experiment this morning, but planes were flying overhead, and they interfere with the sound a lot more than I thought they would. I guess today I would talk about liberal churches in the Santa Clara area. I was raised a Baptist. I was raised a fundamental Baptist, and at this point in my life I have very fundamental disagreements with the fundamentalist way of viewing the relationship between authority and morality, and especially an authoritative book and morality. If you want to see what I think the Bible has to do with morality, then you could read this essay. I posted a link to it over there. So click on that, read it. That's probably the quickest and most complete way for me to tell you what I think about what the Bible has to do with morality. Now about the liberal churches. I'm going church shopping now, and I haven't found a match yet. Haven't found a perfect match. Of course, there never really is a perfect match. People are people, and there's always different types of people in different places, and nobody's exactly the same. Nobody values exactly the same thing, and nobody looks at things in the same exact ways. But there are some things that I think these churches can at least try to get and to have, and one of them is an openness about God concepts, and especially a kind of relaxed, not using God so much. I don't like it when people use the word God a lot, as if there's something that is, as if just using the word God can demand respect. It doesn't. And people use the word God as if it's like a code word for morally correct. And a title for a particular being can't be that. A title for a particular being cannot be synonymous with what is morally correct, because it's just wrong to associate any particular being with what is absolutely morally correct. To think that somebody is absolutely morally correct all the time is really just idolatrous, really. And so you shouldn't be using particular beings as if they are the standard for objective and absolute moral correctness. Another thing I'm looking for in churches, besides an openness about God concepts, or really for me, not being too crazy about using the word God. Another thing that I'm looking for is not being explicitly socialist. I don't want a congregation that is explicitly socialist, and I'm afraid that a lot of liberal congregations are socialist. I am attracted to liberal congregations because they consider the rights of the other, and they're willing to accord moral worth to beings regardless of those beings, regardless of their capacities, regardless of their strength. Liberals have a much better track record at standing up for the weak. But if we're going to be that fervent about what kinds of force are legitimate, then we should probably accept that, using a monopoly of violence as a means to our ends is unjust. Of course, not a lot of liberal congregations do that, and not a lot of liberal congregations take that stand. And a lot of liberal congregations talk about expanding the role of government into our lives, and government really is a monopoly of violence. And they talk, and by doing that, they are legitimizing institutionalized force. They're legitimizing the initiation of force against non-aggressors, and the fact, and they don't really realize that um, that doing it for some supposedly good end is making the ends justify the means, and the ends don't justify the means. The ends don't justify the means. That just really contradicts very fundamental ideas of justice. So I'm looking at these liberal congregations to see whether they are explicitly socialist. They haven't stood out to be explicitly socialist just yet, but I'm kind of waiting for it to come out. And I guess the first congregation where a preacher stands up and says that we need universal health care right now is going to be the first one that I stop visiting. And I kind of expect that that would be the Unitarian Universalist Church in San Jose. It's a lovely congregation, kind of neat looking building too, and I'm very impressed by the way Unitarian Universalists study other religions and try to adopt things that they think other societies and other cultures can contribute. I think that's a very respectable thing to do. But I just expect that that church is kind of, off the deep end when it comes to how leftist when it comes to how leftist a religious group can be. The Quaker Church is kind of neat, but I think they're coming awfully close to that too. And I just have this hunch that First Congregational in San Jose might be the one, but I'm not sure. I'm still waiting out. Another thing that I'm looking for in liberal churches is a reluctance to take the pro-choice side on the abortion debate. If we wanted to consider the inherent worth and dignity of every being, then, preborn humans have inherent worth and dignity. And to say that a woman has some supposed right to end the life of her child, when that child is not threatening her life, it is just contrary to the whole spirit of liberal Christianity. And if I find that a certain church makes that explicit stand, if I find that a church stands for a woman's supposed right to choose, then I probably wouldn't feel at home. I wouldn't feel at home in that congregation, and I would probably leave as quick as I can. So those are a few things that I'm looking for in a congregation. They're really negative things, really. I don't want them to use God so much. I don't want them to be explicitly socialist, and I don't want them to be explicitly pro-choice. If there are members in those congregations who are, then that's fine with me. I just don't want that to be the official position of the church. And I would feel very uncomfortable associating with that church if that is their official position.